Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Resident Alien Season 4, Episode 5. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I really like this overarching theme in this particular episode. It's kind of like an episode of acceptance in a lot of ways, personal acceptance, and it's just kind of interesting how that ties into both Harry, Asta, and Darcy's side of the episode. But I think maybe you can draw some parallel with the Ben, Kate, as well as Mike and Liv side of things. But we'll get to that soon. I'm curious to see where I want to start. Let's start off with like the Harry side of things and kind of tie into the Asta and Darcy side of things. So Harry is, going through the human emotion of feeling alone. And, what does he do? He's throwing himself a little bit into exercise, and he's trying to get with Lydia, who works at, like, the library. Or does she work at a bookstore? Whatever the case may be. I think she works at the library, but either way, trying to, like, not be alone. First, he's trying to hang out with Mike, but Mike's like, well, I'm not alone. In fact, I'm kind of good. He's in a very happy relationship. Obviously, him and Lena have different sides of the whole alien discussion, but they're in a pretty good spot. So it is a situation that Harry is trying to overcompensate. He doesn't want to feel alone. He never really felt that as a alien, but I mean, even as an alien, he was becoming more and more human, and now that he actually is human, he's feeling it all the way through, trying to figure out, well, I don't want to be alone. So it's like, hey, I might not have people in my life, not be in a relationship, things didn't work out with Lydia because he was just rambling on about all the vaginas he sees on a daily basis. It's like, yeah, that's gonna, once again, it's part of your job as a doctor, but you don't have to really like shout that to the world, and just kind of doesn't need to be your icebreaker in the conversation. Things seem to go decent well. She found you attractive, but Harry shot himself in the foot because he knows nothing about how to interact with people in general. Aside from just being his alien self, but also just, doesn't know how to human well, right? So he then proposes to Asta in front of everybody. I'm curious to see if that ends up continuously being a recurring bit, because there's a lady at the diner who was like, don't you have a wedding to plan? And Asta's like, does everyone know about that? But obviously she turns Harry down because it's like, no, like, I'm not going to marry you, even though it's like, you're literally the second alien in a month to propose to me. I can't get a regular human to do it, but somehow I'm attracting all these aliens. But it's like, yeah, just Harry doesn't want to be alone. And she's like, you're not alone. You have Bridget. Because it's like, yeah, without Heather and their children around, now it's like, oh, like, I felt so full and now I feel empty. But it's like, right, you have Bridget to love, and that's something. You have family. And so I said, yeah, return these fake flowers. Oh, they're not fake flowers. I stole them off of Craven. I was just looking at them. It's almost like why am I not surprised at this point in time? But it's still kind of like, wow, that's all kinds of effed up. But Harry's trying to overcompensate with his loneliness, and he's trying to put all this on Bridget. It's like, oh, we should hang out. So he tries to hang out with Bridget at his card game with his friends who mock Harry for being a human. They're reading his mind. They're talking telepathically. He's still out of the loop, and he's talking like a human. And so now Bridget's kind of like in the rebellious phase of like, oh, you suck, Dad, leave me alone. I'm going to storm out the house and slam the door. Then it's like, I'm going to force you to go fishing with me, as the human tradition of, we're not actually supposed to be actually catching fish. We're supposed to be complaining and commenting on how much fish we're not catching. And even it's the irony behind it is that he's trying to force Bridget to be in their human form, because it's like, I can't connect with you in your alien form because I'm a human. But if you're in human form, it's like, I want you to bend to the way I want you to, which is the whole lesson you learned last episode. But Harry is not always the quickest to pick this stuff up, but it's like the whole point of letting Heather go is because you didn't want her to have to change who she was. She needed to be accepted and loved for who she is, which Harry's just pushing all his loneliness onto Bridget. It's like, because I want us to connect and stuff. Then try to do it with Max, creepily waiting in his bed, no pants on. And it's like, even Max, like, yeah, like, you tried to kill me and you didn't like me and you used me a lot, but hey, at least I put up with that because you were an alien. Now you're just an old creepy dude. So no, so it's like, oh, I would take care of you. I'm gonna adopt you because I'm gonna treat you better than your family treats you or whatever. Funny enough, we don't actually see Max interact with his family. Like, over the course of the series as a whole, it's funny, like, we've seen him have more on-screen time, in my personal opinion. I think there's truth to it. I mean, honestly, people he probably hangs out more outside of his family. It's like Sahara and Harry. Like, he definitely hangs out with them. It's definitely had more on-screen time with them than his own parents of Kate and Ben, which is kind of funny to think about. But I think there's also a layer to that whole situation. But regardless, funny enough, the advice Harry ends up getting comes from Peter. It's like basically Peter's the one that taught him you need to accept all sides of yourself, because he's like, I was a human but now I'm a robot, but it's like I am what I was but I also am what I've become. And it's like same thing for you, Harry. You are still an alien. You were an alien, you still are, but you've also become human. You're 100% of both, which is like, yeah, that's very befitting and perfect considering your child is both. So it's like you can understand your child in a way that you never really thought you could before, where it's like, right, there's two sides of you, both are equal. Who you were versus who you are now is the total sum. You are the total sum of our experiences, and everything that we were and are currently, makes us who we are. So it's kind of nice. Apparently the fishing situation worked out. So that's beautiful. It was like, hey, you were able to kind of connect. You found yourself, and then like this new existence of yours of being human, because you didn't know what it meant to be human. It's like, well, you're still discovering what it means to be human, but you might not be fully an alien anymore, but you were an alien, and that still sticks with you. So tying that into the Asta side of things, where Dan has actually got some shows booked, so he's going to be on the road with his band, and Asta wants him to kind of go out and enjoy himself. It's like, right, before you get tied down to being an elder for for their tribe and everything, you need to like go out and live your life, rock star it up and stuff. And she also wants to prove to her dad, like, I'm not, my dad looks at me as like the little girl, like I have a successful job. I'm a very successful, put together person. Like but my dad, all he sees is his little girl, but I proved to him I can do it. But obviously it's like, you took this up. Like, the thing is, like, were you doing it for your dad's benefit of, I want you to go out there and live a little, but you also did it mainly just to prove a point, like, I can do this. But it was a lot juggling your actual job along with taking care of the diner, because things are going wrong in the diner. Doesn't help that literally it's supposed to be Ellen on shift, and what is she doing? She's kicking it up in the diner, being like, hey, can you heat up these fries? They're a little cold. So that's stressful, and she's kind of like getting a little wound up with everything going on. But Harry gave her the advice of, you are a success and a failure. You have your great, beautiful hair. You are a very kind person. The fact of the matter is, focus on your success, and that's who you are, because that successful side of you, she's so busy trying to prove a point, not only to herself, but also to her dad, that she can do it all. But it's like, it's okay that you can. You do have a successful lane of your job and your life, and you are a successful person. You are a good person. Like, that is what matters the most, So I thought that was kind of a beautiful like tie-in, and especially with the Darcy of it all, who's trying to adopt a dog, but they reject her, and she's like, wait, what? No, of course I can adopt a dog. It's like, well, you got drunk and then you like tagged or whatever, like a statue out of college. She's like, come on, everyone's crazy in their college days. It's like, you literally did this 2 months ago. She's like, I never said I was in college. But it's like, yeah, they're rejecting her. And she's like, oh, well, what do you want me to do? Like, she's like, this whole system is BS. What do you want me to do? You want me to perform tricks? And the lady's like, no. She's like, this sucks. And it's like, yeah, I know. But it's just, it is what it is. It's like, we're trying to find a home so these dogs end up a better home. She's like, a better home. Yes. And Darcy's like, a better home as in better than a dog shelter. So you're saying being with me would actually be worse than being in a dog shelter? And she's like, yes. It's just like, hey, she was very matter of fact of it. And Darcy's like, no, I can do this. I have the responsibilities. It's like, well, once again, Darcy's trying to fill a hole and void in her life as well. And I mean, I guess you can make the argument, so is Asta. I mean, once again, trying to prove to her dad, I'm an adult. Like, I can do this. I can handle this. Trying to feel like she is a grown-up, where she feels like in her dad's eyes she isn't. So it's like she's trying to prove something to her dad. Darcy's trying to prove something to herself, like with the void of Ben and Kate's baby no longer in her life. Like, she's always constantly, and once again, even before that, it's like she's constantly trying to prove herself over and over again. That's just like Darcy continues to try and fill that void inside of herself in some shape or form or some fashion. And so she's trying to be a dog mom now. And it's just kind of like, she can't take the rejection, because it's like, yeah, you kind of lost Kate and Ben's baby. You can't be with her like you'd want to. And now it's like, well, you can't be a parent to a dog. And it's like, you're telling me I'm not good enough to take care of a dog. Then she tried to get Judy to like get the dog, but she came in with her performance of like, oh my god, I'm so rich, I could take care of the dog, said a lot of nice things, but a lot of wrong things. I'm sure, aside from all the stuff she spilled, who knows if there's anything on her records that would prove she's not fit to take care of a dog. I'm sure what she did not help, but I'm sure there's stuff on her record that proves she wasn't responsible enough. I think the irony it'd be funnier if we found out if she'd actually kept her mouth shut, her record would show that she's actually a better fit to take care of her dog than Darcy. I think that would be hilarious. That if she hadn't put on that whole performance, she would have gotten a dog, and that would have probably cut Darcy a little deep, knowing like, wow, it's kind of sucky you would be able to do it, but I can't. Like I said, I want to believe like even on her record, she would have gotten no. That performance she was putting on was just icing on the cake. And then they go down the criminal route where they're literally breaking into try to break into the place, and they try to use the credit card trick, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, Judy, that I dropped your credit card. Oh, it's fine, that's your credit card. It's like, wait, why do you have my credit card? It's like, remember we were hanging out, Darcy, last night, and you were saying like, take whatever you want. So I took your credit card and your shower soap. And then later on found out like, oh yeah, I'm wearing your shoes. Don't worry, I'm not wearing any weird gross socks. They're just my bare feet. It's just like, Jesus, Judy. And then she tries to use her arm to get to the lock, gets stuck, and then Darcy tries to help, but I was like, the funny thing is you're both going to get stuck, aren't you? And yes, and now Darcy's got a court date. It's like, she's like, this is all that dog shelter place's fault. It's like, yes, you trying to break in to steal a dog because Judy's hyping you up by being like, yeah, you were just trying to do that dog a service. You were trying to get that dog home. And it's like, yeah, once again, it's just like Darcy lives in her own world because like, Asta's the one that's like, you're like the mom of the group where it's like, you're the responsible one. You're kind of judgy, where Judy doesn't judge you. Judy just kind of, once again, I think that's the reason that when she had the whole thing with Ben, she didn't go to Asta because she knows what Asta's going to say. She just, you need your confirmation bias, and Judy is her confirmation bias, where it's like, Judy's going to tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear from Asta. But Asta can also be very preachy in that regard. It's a delicate balancing act, and Darcy's listening more to Judy than she is Asta, because she's like, I don't want to hear Asta's judgments. Like, she didn't even say anything, but like the look in her eyes, I could tell. And the irony is, she continued to prove the point when Asta asked her like, oh, could you take out like deposit like the diner's money, and she instead went to the bar. She's like, oh, it's just gonna be one drink, I'm gonna take it light. Immediately wakes up, the money's gone. Now, my immediate thought, like I was like, there's no way Darcy's gonna do something stupid like spend some of that money or something, like, worse, she lost it. Probably spending it would have been worse, but the question then becomes like, I get the feeling like she probably did deposit it, she probably just doesn't remember it, or she asked Judy to do it. Oh, it might be an issue next episode where she might confront Judy, be like, yo, did you steal that money? Because you've repeatedly stolen stuff from me, and that might actually cause harm to their friendship. I don't know. We'll see how that storyline plays. I'm so curious to see where things kind of go on that front, and how long she's going to be able to keep that from Asta. And then Asta's going to be very judgy towards you, and you're going to be, once again, proving Asta's point. But then also it's going to, Asta being, once again, quote unquote, preachy and judgmental has been an issue in their relationship in the past too. So, because it's like, yeah, Asta's the one that's got it all together. Darcy's like the perpetual fuck up. Judy's kind of in the same way, but I guess you make the argument, even in her fucked upness, like Judy still kind of has it maybe together. It's more like a Judy kind of accepts things as they are. She knows who she is, and she's who she are. Jesus. Grammar much? She knows who she is, versus Darcy trying so hard to be, once again, she's always struggled with who she was versus who she is now, when she's trying not to accept who she is now because she doesn't like who she is. So she wants to be like, no, I'm this person, I know I am. But it's like, Darcy has always struggled to look at herself in the mirror, both like objectively and with like, because she looks at herself in a very pessimistic way. She does not have a lot of confidence in herself. She presents herself a certain way, but it's like, that's a front to hide like a lot of her like doubts and insecurities about herself, She tries to live it up to be the fun of the party, but really it's all a cover, a mask to hide like her own, like I said, insecurities and stuff. So we have that. Then picking up with the Kate and Ben of it all, where Ben, I love, is eating the Girl Scout cookies from the aliens. It's like, you're eating those? And he's like, well, yes, the cookies aren't aliens, they're cookies. And then like he's still eating them, and Kate just smashes the box. It's just like, you look like such a dick, but it's like, right, she wants to go to Liv because we found out Liv actually has an alien podcast I love, and she's got cheese sponsors and everything. It's actually part discussing aliens, and then also different types of cheeses on cracker. And I'm like, and once again, sponsorships. I'm like, hey, look at you, Liv. That's some nice side income you got coming along. I mean, the whole point was it back in season 2, the whole thing of like, yeah, Liv doesn't get paid well, even though once again, she's kind of the best cop in town from what we've seen. But Mike walks in and he doesn't judge her. He's like, no. You putting the word out there because she's trying to find Peter's son, Robert, because it's like, oh, like he might be a piece to this whole puzzle. So we need to, in that regard, kind of get more people out there. And for Liv, it's kind of like, oh, wow, like, it's like Mike's accepted you with the whole alien things because he believes in aliens, and then he's like very like supportive of you doing this, kind of saying like it's a really good job, and she tries to hug him. He's like, whoa. HR would have a problem with that. Like, there are rules about hugging in a closet. Like, come on, no. It was a very cute moment, but it's like, also I understand Mike's prone to be blah, 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 blah. We're not about to do that. We're not going to get caught up in some complicated scandal. But because of that, Kate wants to invite Liv over for dinner to ask her. But once again, they're still like, we're not going to invite Mike because they think Mike is the skeptic, which up until recently he was. You would have been right before like what, episode 2 or 3, you would have been right to not invite Mike. But now it's like, no, Mike's part of the squad. He knows aliens exist. He's seen one with his own eyes. Tried to bring that up to Lena and Jules, which Lena was like, don't do that. But he brings up the mantid of it all, and Jules thinks he's crazy because they're planning on moving on because they don't think the killer's here anymore. Which, ironically enough, technically they're wrong, but also right because the killer's not alive anymore. But the killer is buried here in Patience, so when will that be discovered? Like I said, someone's going to be taking a walk with their dog or whatever, or the elements will eventually expose the body. I don't know. It's a pretty good hole that Judy dug, so it probably have to be like someone's walking their dog and discovering the body. That is the only angle I could see potentially happening on that front, unless we find out like the mantid can like resuscitate itself, like even though being literally ripped apart by Heather, episode 3. Who knows? But yeah, Liv goes over, and it's funny, the swinger conversation comes up at the end of the episode. I thought when Liv got invited over, when Ben was like, no, don't, just, no +1, is like, but you and Kate will be there. She's like, that's because, he's like, we lived there, and that'd be like, if we were +1ing, it'd be like us bringing dates there, and that'd be weird, how dare you suggest that? She's like, I didn't. He's like, well, all is forgiven. I'm like, I thought her takeaway from it would be like, oh, you guys are swingers. Which her takeaway from the relationship is, well, if anyone's going to be a swinger, it most likely will be Kate, not Ben. Which I think he personally would probably take offense to that. Like, what? I don't seem like I could be a swinger, and it's like, Ben would get caught up on like the wrong thing. But yeah, she initially goes over, and of course Mike follows, because he's like, oh, we're kind of in this together. He was even saying like, oh, you fought for me to come along too, right? Because you are a half and you're not a complete person without me, right? She's like, I did not make that point. He's like, wow, I can't believe you do that, deputy. He's like, you're doing this because I didn't give you a hug in the closet, right? And she kind of looks away like, that's not the thing. But I'm also wondering on some level, she's like, well, that's not the reason, but I was still a little hurt you wouldn't let me hug you. So I don't think that was her motivation, but I do think on some level that probably did like pop up in her head. But Mike showed up with his own chicken and his own knife because he's like, whoa, uneven chicken, which even Ben's testing out the knife. He's like, I can't believe it. It's like, and Kate's like, yeah, inviting yourself over. And he's like, oh, that, but also this knife, it's cutting through like yogurt. And he's like, also like, on my wish list for like my birthday or whatever, or Christmas list, like, get me like a knife sharpener. It's just like, I just love how irritated she loves him to death, but you could tell just sometimes Kate really dislikes Ben, and just like the death stare she gives him sometimes. It just feels like it's come up more and more as the series progresses, where you're just like, that's the most dysfunctional relationship. There's love there, but man, is it dysfunctional. But once again, what relationship is like perfect? What relationship doesn't have its odd ends and dysfunction? Either way, it becomes this whole back and forth of trying to like, separate Mike away from Liv so that Kate could talk to Liv alone to get this information about aliens, which I love. It started off as a, hey, let's check out my candles. And he's like, I'm not a fan of candles. And now it turns into a legitimate conversation because Ben was offended. He's like, whoa, what's wrong with candles? And now it turns into this legitimate argument, which both Kate and Liv are like, I kind of would want to die right now in this moment. It's like, yeah. It's like what was supposed to be a distraction became a real argument and issue. And so I love that, Mike and Liv find the camera, which we know is a camera left by Darcy. I'm curious to see, because they're under the assumption it's based on, initially Mike and Liv are thinking, Mike is thinking it's a swinger thing, but Liv's like, they're not swingers. And then when Ben pours the wine on her, like, oh my God, I'll have to take you to the bathroom to get that blouse off. She's like, I'm not a swinger. I love that. But it's like, oh, they didn't plant the camera. Oh my God, it must have been the Girl Scouts. It was the aliens that took our baby. So now, finally, it's all out in the open. Well, not all of it, but they're going to sit down and discuss. And it's like, wait, you believe in aliens? It was, there was a the killings that was happening. Yeah, that was an alien. I saw it with myself. I've actually seen the Greys and stuff like that. Now, the thing is, Darcy should have all this recorded. Granted, we don't know how often Darcy checks the recordings, especially with this latest snafu. She's probably going to be more distracted with that and not finding out, hey, yo, Ben and Kate have linked up with Liv and Mike and what was told. I mean, they also probably had that conversation in a different room. So, I mean, there's always, once again, Mike and Liv won't have a reason to check it, but I'm sure if, they check, they could probably track it down and find out who bought it, which that will be a whole issue because then you're going to be like, wait, Darcy's spying on us. It'll probably add validity to the whole, oh my God, Kate was right initially that she might be one of the aliens, but then it was like, oh, maybe she's a victim like us, but then also she lied to Ben, saying she had no idea what was what. So a lot of that's probably going to come, what's the phrase? Was it the chickens come home to roost? Is that the saying? I think. Whatever the case may be, it's some interesting developments. And then finally we have our stinger at the end of the episode while eating pie and celebrating with Asta. Harry just randomly disappears. So I can only assume the Greys snatched him up. Now for what purposes? I have no idea. They've already got his alien essence. What else do they need from Harry? I'm sure they've been keeping an eye on him and maybe they know maybe they found out that Harry knows where the baby is somehow. Maybe because of the whole Kate and Ben knowing maybe because they know about the message they got from Joseph, which I'm wondering, will we see any more Joseph this season or not? A lot of interesting developments. I'm curious to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.